نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم ما بعد. وعن أبي مسعود عقبة بن عمرو البدري رضي الله تعالى عنه قال: جاء رجل إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال: إني لا أتأخر عن صلاة الصبح من أجل فلان مما يطيل بنا، فما رأيت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم غضب في موعظة قط أشد مما غضب يومئذ، فقال: يا أيها الناس إن منكم منفرين، فأيكم أما الناس فليوجز، فإن من ورائه الكبير والصغير وذا الحاجة. متفق عليه. This hadith, some time back, we translated it and went into some detail. However, certain aspects still remain. Abu Mas'ud Uqba bin Amr Badri radiyallahu ta'ala anhu is the narrator. He says a person came to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. As to the identity of the Sahabi, it was mentioned previously that in certain other riwayat, Hazm bin Ubay bin Ka'b radiyallahu ta'ala anhu's name is mentioned. Some other riwayat, Haram bin Midhan, and also Salman bin Harith. In other words, it's not patently clear who was the Sahabi. Different narrations are mentioned as to who the identity. Nevertheless, he came to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and he had a complaint. Literal translation: Inni la ata'akhkhar an salati subh. He said, Ya Rasulullah, I at times absent myself from the Fajr Salah. What is meant? I absent myself from the Jamaat Salah of Fajr because of so and so person, in other words, so and so Imam, who inadvertently lengthens the Salah. So what was his complaint? That there was, in the area where he was making Fajr Salah, in that Musalla, the Imam who used to lead the Salah used to perform a very long Salah. And because of him lengthening the Salah, this Sahabi complains to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that I actually missed the Jamaat Salah of Fajr. La ata'akhkhar, I absent myself from the Fajr Salah. Our understanding of Deen, my respected brothers, if we had to place our hands over the latter part of the hadith, what would we expect? We would expect that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would reprimand this person. A person is telling Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam that I purposely miss my Fajr Salah with Jamaat because the Imam is making too long a Salah. Now when it comes to lengthening one's Salah or performing a long Salah, this is something that is actually encouraged in Shariat. Aqimus Salah. Allah doesn't just say perform your Salah. Allah says establish Salah. Aqimus Salah. Our sathis who go out in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are encouraged that daily spend time, make effort on your Salah. Make long rukus, long sajdas. Try and develop khushu and khudu in your Salah. As Imam Yusuf Sahib rahmatullah alayhi used to say that if a person is out in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Salah that he has performed today is not better than the Salah of yesterday, the Salah that he is performing today is not better than the Salah of yesterday, then he is not spending his time correctly. In other words, this is a lifelong challenge to make such a Salah as if you are seeing Allah. It comes in the riwayat, make Salah or make Allah's ibadat ka'annaka tara, as if you are seeing Allah. And if Allah is not seeing you, and if you are not seeing Allah, then at least know in your heart that Allah is seeing you, Allah is looking at you. So on the one hand, Salah or the lengthening of Salah, this is something that is advocated and encouraged in Shariat. It's part of Deen. Now we come to the issue of Jamaat Salah. Here, does Shariat require you to lengthen the Salah? With regards to this, Ulama Kiram mention, they say that there are three types of Imams. When it comes to leading Salah, they say there are three Imams generally fall into three categories. One is that Imam who performs the salah very, very quickly. Very quickly to the point that the sunnahs are not fulfilled. When it comes to going into ruku, Subhana Rabbiyal Azim, for example, we are encouraged, at least the bare minimum should be farz or obligation, is at least one time we read the tasbih. When we say farz or obligation, in other words, to pause long enough in that ruku to establish that rukun of salah, or to establish that posture of salah, to pause long enough in each of the postures of salah, so that we establish that particular posture, that is obligatory. Then is the sunnah. The sunnah is at least minimum 3 times to read the tasbih of that particular posture. Then how many times more you can read it, sky is the limit. Allah's Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in his tahajjud salah, his ruku would equal his qiyam. His sajda would equal his ruku. Very, very long. But in imamat salah, when it comes to farz salah, when it comes to the congregational salah, here at least 3 times, so that the sunnah is fulfilled. So one is an imam, they say one category imam is so quick that even this person barely goes into ruku. Before the musallis can get into ruku, is already up from ruku. They say this, hada mukhti, such a person is incorrect in what he is doing. Wa athim, and he is sinful. Why? Lam yu'addil amanata allati alayhi. He has not discharged the amanat that is upon him. He is representing the rest of the congregation in Allah's court. So the bare minimum would have been at least the sunnah of each posture is established. So one is one category of imam who performs the salah too fast. Then we find there is the second category, ulama kiram mentioned, is the one who performs too long a salah. Like we said, performing long salah, developing one's salah, strengthening one's salah, this is part of deen, this is a daily challenge. But when it comes to congregational salah, Shariat does not advocate that the salah must be too long. The reason being, as we mentioned previously, in the latter part of this hadith, Allah's Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam clearly says, فَأَيُّكُمْ أَمَّا النَّاسِ, any one of you who is imam, who is leading the people in salah, فَلْيُوجِزْ. فَلْيُوجِزْ, fa and lam coming together, this is imperative. In other words, this is a command of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That any one of you who is an imam, do not lengthen the salah. In other words, do not lengthen the salah to the point where you are going too long. Why? فَإِنَّ مِنْ وَرَائِهِ الْكَبِيرِ وَالصَّغِيرِ وَذَا الْحَاجَةِ. Look at the cognizance that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam takes. The consideration. This was, Nabi Pak sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was rahmatul lil alameen. He was a mercy unto humanity. Consideration was there for every aspect of the ummah. Allah's Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, a congregation of musallis is not made up of just one type of person. There are different types of people. Amongst them are elderly people. So because the elderly person, for him to stand too long, you're causing him taklif. So Allah's Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Mi wara'ihil kabir. Behind you, there are elderly people. Behind you, there are young people. Normally a young person lacks patience. He cannot concentrate for too long. وَذَا الْحَاجَةِ. Sometimes Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says a congregation is made up of people with weaknesses. In other words, sometimes a physical disability. Or the person has some need. Not everybody can spend 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes in the masjid. Someone has come for Farz Salah, but he's got to be somewhere else. He's got to go somewhere. He's got some appointment. Or he's got some job to go back to. So because there are different types of people made up, that make up a congregation, here Allah's Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, فَأَيُّكُمْ أَمَّا النَّاسِ. Whoever amongst you is imam of a people, let him shorten the salah. Do not lengthen. But very important, when we talk of shorten or such commands that are given, it means don't shorten to the point where you sacrifice the sunnah of each posture. No. There you will be sinful. Shorten to the point where the sunnah is discharged. But you don't inadvertently lengthen the salah. Why? To repeat, فَإِنَّ مِنْ وَرَائِهِ الْكَبِيرِ وَالصَّغِيرِ وَذَا الْحَاجَةِ. Because there are elderly behind you, there are children behind you, and there are people who have some need, some appointment, somewhere they have to be. Consider all these people when you are making imamat. We come back to the original complaint that is found in this hadith. To complete what we were mentioning, imams are of three categories. One, those who read so fast, they are also sinful. Those who read too long, they are also sinful. The third is those who perform a moderate salah, not too short and not too long also. They are considerate of the musallis that are behind them. When we see, how do you establish not too long, not too short? The criteria which ulama kiram mention is the sunnah. At least the sunnah length of each posture should be established. As we mentioned, for example, the tasbihat of ruku, tasbihat of sajda, at least 3 times these tasbihs can be said properly. So this is how we will establish the sunnah of each of the postures. As I mentioned previously, lengthening salah, this is something advocated, but in our infiradi salah. If you look at our shariat, our deen takes consideration of every circumstance. For example, a person is in safar, a person is on journey. Here, what is the shariat? The shariat is, if it's a 4 rakat salah, make 2 rakats. Why you are on journey? Salah is something that's supposed to be lengthened, yet our deen is easy. Our deen is not difficult. In fact, I'm digressing. There's one elderly imam, I remember, whenever we used to visit, our Jamaat used to go to that particular area, he used to mention, passed away now, Allah make his maghfirah, he used to mention one incident of Mawlana Yusuf Sahib rahmatullah alayhi. And from this we learn that being an imam is a leader of a community. Imamat is a great position, it's an amanat. This is a person that is representing the rest of the community in Allah's court, in their salah, etc. And we find hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Al-Imamu Dhamin. An imam carries the burden of responsibility of the entire congregation. So an imam is somebody that has to be in touch with his musallis. He has to be able to establish what is the length that they can bear. One of our asatiza, Allah give him long life, very often he used to say the musalla is not a stage. It's not for your performance. In your individual time, do your performance, go as long as you want. But on the musalla, you have to consider those that are behind you also. An imam is someone that is, like I said, who is in touch with his congregation. Touch to the point where he performs such a salah that people look forward to that. The idea is to increase the number of musallis. The idea is not to chase people away. We are running out of time. We're not going to be able to fully complete this hadith. But suffice to say that the narrator of the hadith says that Allah's Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, when he heard this complaint, that a sahabi comes and says that, Ya Rasulullah, I miss my Fajr Salah with Jamaat intentionally because the Imam makes too long a Salah. He says, I have never seen Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam becoming so angry like I saw him on that day. He was absolutely upset. He says, فَمَا رَأَيْتُ النَّبِيَّ غَضِبَ فِي مَوْعِظَةٍ قَطُّ أَشَدَّ مِمَّا غَضِبَ يَوْمَئِذٍ. Those of us who understand Arabic, he said, I've never seen him as upset and angry as he was on that day. Now, who was he upset at? Who would we expect him to be upset at? At the person who missed his Fajr Salah with Jamaat. Yet, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was upset and angry at that Imam. The reason behind it, the mizaj of Shariat, like I said, that requires a little bit more detail so that we don't misunderstand the hadith. Obviously, we run out of time. Inshallah, that will continue. But to complete this incident, where, as I mentioned, an Imam is someone who should be in touch with his musallis. And he should be considerate. This person used to tell us, whenever our Jamaat used to go to his area, one incident of Yusuf Sahib rahmatullah alayhi, he said once we were on Safar with Maulana and we were at a train station. So it was Friday and it was Fajr Salah. So Maulana appointed someone to lead the Jamaat. So that person decided, mashallah, it's Friday, so let me read Surah Alif Lam Mim Sajda and Surah Dahar. And he read a very long Fajr Salah in Safar while he was leading the Jamaat. He read such a long salah that they missed the train. So he says, after the salah, this Imam came up to Maulana Yusuf Sahib rahmatullah and he said, Hazrat, main maazirat chahta hu. कि मैंने बहुत लंबी सलाह पढ़ाई. He says, Hazrat, I apologize. I'm asking for forgiveness that I made too long a salah. So Maisur Sahib Rahmatullahi Alayhi he said, Qusur aapka nahi hai. The mistake is not yours. Qusur mera. It's my mistake. कि मैंने आप जैसे को imam बनाया. That I appointed someone like you to be an imam. In other words, someone who lacks the basirat and understanding of Shariat. Understanding of Shariat requires to consider your circumstances, consider your musallis, consider where you are. Bring all that into consideration in the type of salah that you perform. Allah give us tawfiq.